In fact, I would even say great customer experience leads to better everything, not just marketing. And I say that because the moment companies start optimizing for the experience, of course, most companies start with optimizing for the customer's experience. But overall, that leads to a better understanding of the customer, better understanding of the market, and that leads to better personalization, better messaging, positioning, all of that stuff.
I'm Shawn Hessinger, and this is Small Biz in 15, the show where we bring you small business news and tips to make your small business better. Recently, Small Biz in 15 went on location at Zoholics 2023 in Austin, Texas, and spoke to PVK, Head of Marketing Strategy for the Customer Experience Product Group at Zoho, about top customer experience trends small businesses should be tracking today.
What are the customer experience challenges that businesses talk about most often now, do you think?
Okay, so that's a very fundamental, very important question to ask. And to start with, I think the biggest challenge is resistance to change. Change anything that has been practiced traditionally. That's the first most fundamental challenge. The second is the lack of a unified view of the entire customer journey, and that helps make decisions in a different way. And the lack of that visibility creates the third challenge, which is the presence and prevalence and probably even dominance of internal silos. Those are the top three.
Yeah. Well, I mean, saying that, what are the customer experience trends that you think are hottest in the marketplace right
now? The first is definitely a blended view of the customer across all of the various functions and the journeys, and that's the number one thing, and it's also the thing that is going to change the way companies approach customer experience. The second is, of course, the emergence of self-service, and that has been accelerated by, of course, the pandemic and the events thereafter. But it has also become, more elegantly accepted by customers for a variety of use cases. So that's number two. And of course, the third, the elephant in the room is AI.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because I think that even though it probably should be mentioned more often, it isn't, the connection between customer service and or customer experience and marketing. But how does good customer experience lead to better marketing?
That's a good question. In fact, I would even say great customer experience leads to better everything, not just marketing. And I say that because the moment companies start optimizing for the experience, of course, most companies start with optimizing for the customer's experience. But overall, that leads to a better understanding of the customer, better understanding of the market, and that leads to better personalization, better messaging, positioning, all of that stuff. So it improves marketing effectiveness, even though it's a paradigm shift, right? At the day-to-day level, it's quite a bit of change, but just that strategic shift from engagement to experience just has a huge impact on marketing itself. And of course, more personalized marketing leads to much more effective marketing.
Well, let's talk about that in terms of a key feature of Zoho, like CRM. I mean, CRM kind of helps you improve both customer experience and marketing, right? I mean, can you talk a little bit about how it does that?
Sure. CRM essentially contributes to personalization at every level. And at Zoho, we are one of the very few companies that focus on the experience of every employee who participates in the customer journey, not just the customer themselves, but also every employee, including ecosystem partners and so on and so forth. So the personalization works across various levels. The first is, of course, the data, which can be personalized, can be transformed, manipulated in whichever way. It runs as a layer across all of our products at the bottom. The second is, of course, in how you draw inferences and insights from that data, and that is also personalized to each business. So if you're a small business, if the needs of somebody like Nike, who may also be on the same platform, will not be affecting what the system does on your data. Your data is going to be inferred, and insights are going to be generated in the context of your own business. That's another thing. And the third is, of course, all of this becomes meaningless if it's not presented in the right density to the right person at the right time. So we also work on personalizing the user experience itself. We generated a ton of interest around all of these topics, and we released what we call Canvas for Zoho CRM in 2021, which allows business users to customize the entire CRM experience for every role in the organization.
I want to ask about you to look into your crystal ball here a little bit and tell me, is self-service the future of most of internet customer transactions? I mean, from support to onboarding to whatever.
We do believe that the self-service is going to play a huge role. Whether self-service will replace all person-to-person interactions, not likely. Self-service works extremely well for transactional needs, where the presence of a human being or the fact that a customer needs to be assigned to a human being and needs to be taken ownership of and things like that, a lot of that impedes the customer from being able to be successful. Right? So self-service helps a lot in that direction. The second is, of course, self-service is amazing because it helps small businesses be global across regions, across languages, across time zones and things like that. So you don't really need a 24/7 team to be global if you have self-service. So in that sense, self-service will play a huge role.
You said you don't think it'll replace it, but I guess my next question would be, are we moving away from as much person-to-person interaction online, do you think? Is there going to be a sum total decrease, in other words?
There's already a decrease in person-to-person interactions, and that is, in many cases, for the better. Human beings do not necessarily make every experience amazing, but they do have to get involved in cases where there's a high amount of risk for the customer, or there's a possibility to create more anxiety for the customer, or if there's complexity in the offerings, for example, with something like, say, health insurance or something like that, there you would not really prefer to do a lot of things self-serve, because of the presence of a human being to acknowledge your situation, comprehend it, process, break down the situation into simpler actions and things like that. All that come in handy. Having said that, person-to-person interactions are also expensive in a certain sense. There's an opportunity cost of, when a human being is helping one customer, there are 2 or 3 other customers that may need their attention more, but are not being helped because there is a bottleneck there. So that's the area where we see self-service coming in and helping utilize human effort a little bit better.
How important is customer experience to marketing? We kind of asked this another way before, but I want to ask this in terms of the importance to the marketing campaign in the first place, what you're doing with marketing.
Right. I think a lot of marketing has been traditionally based on engagement. So to shift that from that mindset of likes and comments and things like that at the engagement layer, to move forward into getting customers the outcomes that they need and the outcomes that they benefit from, right? And that's the shift that marketing will have to go through. And on the flip side, a great customer experience strategy at the organization after leadership buy-in has been completed, it presents marketing with a seat at the table across all content experiences, not just with sales or service or marketing, but to own all of the content experiences. And like I said, if self-service is going to take up a significant portion of the customer experience, then marketing has an outsized impact on the customer experience.
I want to mention another elephant in the room, as you said, or maybe it was the same one you mentioned, which is AI, because you mentioned it earlier. AI is going to affect customer experience. How? I have a feeling there's a lot of answers to this question.
Yes, there are a lot of answers to this question. Some of them may not even be the right answers. We will only find out a few years from now. But the biggest impact that AI will have can be on 2 axes. One would be qualitative, which is did you really get a great experience as a customer in that specific interaction, right? Versus, can we replicate that good experience across millions of interactions, regardless of language or complexity or any of those things? Those are the 2 areas where we think AI will have a huge impact. And the other thing is that AI helps small businesses have an outsized impact. They essentially provide a large, the same experience as a large brand, but with a smaller actual footprint on the company, right? And that's a kind of leveler that has not been seen in the last few years. And we believe AI will essentially empower small businesses in a way that software has not before.
I want you to talk a little bit about something you spoke about earlier. You were saying that people don't necessarily have the best customer experience with a human being, which of course, when you talk to small businesses, isn't what you generally hear from people. There's this natural prejudice that the human being is going to give the better customer experience and the better customer service. But can you give an example of this? Because there's a lot of people who are afraid that we're talking about turning customer experience, customer service into essentially a non-human enterprise. And that's really not what we're talking about now. It's kind of like talking about AI eliminating jobs. That's really not what we're talking about. Can you talk about how AI is really changing that customer experience and how, in a lot of ways, it is a very human experience that is being created?
So the way AI impacts small businesses is in making each employee more effective at what they do, and that is even more important for a small business than it is for a much larger business. Larger businesses tend to have a little bit more cushion for error and a little bit more cushion for opportunity cost and things like that. But small businesses, a single opportunity cost decision can make or break the business. So AI certainly enables a lot of possibilities in that sense. However, when we look at examples where a human being is not necessarily the best option to help a customer is for transactional needs. For example, if you ordered from a small business a bunch of t-shirts or whatever, and you want to change your delivery address because for some reason you're not going to be there at home, you want to change it to a friend's address, you don't really want to wait for a human being because this is something you can type in yourself. It's in fact something you typed in yourself earlier when you put in that address. So that's one reason. That's one example. Another common one, almost even cliche to the point of being a cartoon, is resetting your password. You don't want to be able to do that by talking to a human being and then they send you a temporary password and then you log in, and you might as well just do that yourself, right? And there are plenty of such reasons, just transactional needs where there's not necessarily a knowledge interchange, or there's not nearly enough complexity for a human being to be able to simplify that experience. Right? Those are the ones that are going to go away with AI and self-service taking all of those away. With respect to something like, say, insurance or financial services or something like that, you would certainly benefit from talking to a human being. In fact, I was at B&H Photo Video in New York. I was trying to buy a camera, and I instantly realized the vast amount of knowledge that the store sales associate had that I would probably not be able to get from any e-commerce experience. Right? Those are the ones where I think the human beings will continue to remain relevant and probably even prosper.
I want to ask you about that because those are some great examples. Can you think of some others, and maybe some that people don't readily think of? I don't know how many people think about calling somebody to ask them to reset their password. My goodness, that sounds horrifying. But can you think about any maybe customer experience things that humans used to handle that they just don't have to, and it's not even maybe the best use of their time?
Sure. I mean, there are examples across all industries. All the bottom 20% of the things that customers need, things that are simple, things that are transactional, single step, all of that across. So if you're looking at say insurance, you may want to pay out your insurance from another bank account of yours instead of the current one, because you've chosen to go with a different bank, right? That could be one example. Another could be changing your credit card on a subscription service. A third could be upgrading or downgrading your cell phone plan, right? Or any of those things can be done by contacting a human being, but the experience is going to be substantially impeded by the presence of that human being.
Well, that's it for another episode of Small Biz in 15. Thanks again to PVK and Zoho for making this program possible. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the show, and please leave a comment and let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future programs. For more small business news and tips, join us at smallbiztrends.com.